Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our commission meeting tonight. At this time, I would ask you to stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will also have 10 seconds of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Commissioner Bond, can you hear us in Italy?
Hello? Oh, he disconnected again.
You want to get them on? Why don't you call roll first, Deanne, and then you can get them on after that.
Okay, Commissioner Bond is attending via telephone. Vice Mayor Hausberg?
Here.
Commissioner Hanna?
Here.
Commissioner McCall?
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here. Thank you, Deanne.
I'm going to call him once we get to city attorney reports.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for coming tonight. Tonight, we always do, when it's near Veterans Day, we do a little bit honor our veterans. I like to always talk about it because when I became mayor, it's 5 years ago now, my father was a veteran. He served in World War II, and he was in the Army. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He saved 7 men, and he always told us that throughout our lives, if we have the opportunity to bring veterans to the forefront and thank them for their service, and just have a few words with them, it's always a good thing for all of us to be reminded. So at this time, if we have any veterans today, I'd like you to come forward. Come up here with me. I'm going to have you stand over here. You two, come on. And if you have maybe a parent or something, you're more than welcome to come. Sit right up, stand right over here.
Yes. I can hear you now. She's doing the recognition of the IRA veterans.
So this is Phil Hanna. As you know, he's been a commissioner with us for a long time.
Okay.
Phil, what service were you in,
United States Army,
and how long?
9 years.
9 years. Any comment or anything?
Best experience I ever had. Don't want to do it again, but learned a lot.
Well, we want to thank you for your service, for everything that you've done in this community.
Thank you so much.
This is our girl Denise Hausberg, who's been on the commission for, this is 1 year, 2 years now. Tell us what service you were in.
I was in the Army
Army?
Mhm.
How long were you in?
3 years.
And what did you do in there? What were you?
I kept secrets.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us besides, you're not going to tell us any secrets?
No.
Thank you for your service. Terry Becker, she is a resident, very good friend. She hasn't been to any of our other services that we've had in the past, so I invite her to come. Terry, what would you want to talk a little bit about your service?
United States Army and Army National Guard, 23 years, and loved every minute of it.
And your husband?
He just couldn't make it tonight.
Yes.
Yep, Major John Becker, and he's retired as well.
This is for you.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about your service, when you were in, John.
10 years in the United States Coast Guard, another 10 in the United States Navy, retired Chief Boatswain.
Very nice. Anything you want to tell us about it at
I
all?
wouldn't have missed it for the world.
You all know our chief, and he won his election yesterday, so good news for all of us. What service were you in?
I was in the United States Army Reserves, 1987 through 1995. I was assigned to the combat unit for those 2 years.
Anything you want to tell us about?
Thank you. Brooke Waring, I was in the Navy for 5 years, Air Force Reserve for 3 years, then Navy Reserve for 3 years. And the only thing I want to say is, go Navy, be Army.
This is Mary, she's one of our fire people.
Yes.
It's Suncoast Fire Rescue. Mary, what, or you're still in?
I'm currently in, so I previously served initially with the Air Force for 9.5 years as a med tech, and then switched to the Army Reserves as a combat medic. And I hope to get on the helicopters as a flight medic.
Very cool. Thank you for your service. Sure. Everybody together?
That iPhone has a wide lens on it.
Yeah, I got enough room on this one. Ready? Perfect.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, report of Pinellas County Sheriff. You'd like to come forward at this time? I always tell everyone when we have anybody in the audience that you come about 15 minutes before the meeting. The sheriff's here that you can talk privately to if you have anything you'd like to speak to him about. Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Corporal Kelman with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. These are the stats for September 2022. There were 935 calls for service. There were 6 assaults, 2 larcenies. Of the 935 events, the top 3 were 234 traffic stops, 120 house checks, and 119 direct patrols. There were 6 crashes, and there were 299 citations and warnings issued for the city this month, or last month.
Very good.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions for Sheriff Tom?
The case of Indian Rocks Beach went off without a hitch.
Sure did.
There was one, I believe, medical incident, but FD handled that perfectly.
Member Bond, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jude. Okay, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Our next report is Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue. Chief Davidson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief for Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. On behalf of all of Pinellas Suncoast and Fire Rescue District and to our community and our leaders, thank you so much for your support in helping us to pass our extremely important referendum vote last night. Means we're going to get to continue to serve Indian Rocks Beach. We've been serving Indian Rocks Beach since 1951, and without this passing, it wasn't going to continue much longer. So we want to thank you that we can now continue to serve this community, and we really appreciate all the support from everyone. We just left another meeting. I thought I was going to be late here. We just left the Reddington Shores meeting. Back in September, there was a meeting just like this, and one of the commissioners had a massive heart attack and died right there. And our personnel worked in conjunction with the bystanders there, and they revived him, and he made a full recovery. And they invited us tonight to present an award to 3 of my firefighters and paramedics, and he was there. We're very thankful for that. So for the month of October here, just in Indian Rocks Beach, we had 65 calls for fire and emergency medical services that were provided by Pinellas Suncoast. We had an average response time of 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Next week you have a special meeting on the 15th, and that conflicts with my commission meeting, which is at the same time. However, my assistant chief will be here, and as soon as I get out of that meeting, I'll be here. I'm well aware of some of the issues that are going on with that, and we want to help in any way that we can. So again, I want to thank everybody for their support, and we look forward to continuing to serve our community here in Indian Rocks Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next is our public comment. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern they may have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the commission shall be made to the city commission as a whole, not directed to any individual city commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the city commission. I'm just going to mention that in case people are here for the short-term rentals, that is next week. You are more than welcome. You will have 3 minutes if there's something you would like to say about them tonight. And at this time, is there anyone who'd like to come forward? Diane? Oh. Diane? Sorry, John. I saw her get up first.
Hi, I'm Diane Daniel, 309 10th Avenue. I'm really here to introduce myself in person. I sent an email to all of you about an initiative that I'm starting in January. It's called Vacation Donations. I don't usually like to just read things, but I think it would be the best if I read the About page on my website, which I think is a good summary. Vacation Donations is a not-for-profit community resource in Indian Rocks Beach, Florida. We encourage vacationers and rental property managers to donate unused food, beach toys, books, and other items that travelers can't or don't take back with them. We also hope to inspire other communities to start similar projects. Indian Rocks Beach, or IRB as it's known to locals, covers 2.7 miles of shoreline on the Gulf Coast between Clearwater and St. Pete and has about 4,000 residents. Like many vacation communities around the country and beyond, it's filling up with short-term rentals, which have cooking facilities and encourage longer stays. Visitors who come from afar, especially by airplane, often buy food, beach supplies, books, and more while they're visiting and then must leave them behind. Too often, these items get thrown away or sit around unused. By providing a one-stop source of information, we're making it easy for travelers to give back before you go back. So that's the crux of it. I'm also trying to inspire other resort vacation communities to help them start similar programs if they're interested. So really what I'm doing is having a clearinghouse of information. Everything that's on my website are things that already exist. I'm just trying to put it together so that people will have one place to go. And I'm also doing things like, some of them are obvious, like books to the library, and then there's thrift stores, food to the pantry, non-perishables, but also things like towels and blankets, going to veterinarians. I've talked to 4 local veterinarians that accept things like that, because like in a vacation rental, you have one teeny stain on a towel and you can't use it anymore, but vets need towels all the time. So that's really what I'm doing. And I hope to have the blessing of the commission. You don't have to give it now, you can think about it. But it would really help once, I hope to launch the website in January, and hope, I contacted the city about also using a city logo. I have a banner that has community friends, and I'm gonna have logos of different groups, different nonprofit type groups. I've also talked a lot with the Greentown Kids, with Allie, and have talked a lot with the pantry with Connie. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Great.
So thank you.
John?
John Fansteel, 448 Harbor Drive South. Good evening. I want to start off thanking you for the November 15th meeting about regulations with short-term rentals. I'd like to talk to a larger issue, and that's how in the world do we ever get short-term rentals here in the first place in residential areas? The definition of residential is to live in a place permanently for an extended period, allowing transient lodgings in residential neighborhoods. It just destroys the meaning of the word. It destroys our zoning. I can't believe we even have to explain why transients shouldn't be lodging in residential areas. It's like explaining why black is not white. I bought my forever home, as many of us did, in a neighborhood zoned single-family residential. Now, among the single-family residences are 200 unsupervised hotels, each with hundreds of transients each year. The size of IRB residence outrage can be seen on the Harbor Drive if you drive around and see these. Nobody puts these in their driveway because they're pretty. It's because they're outraged about short-term rentals. Not all short-term rentals, just ones in residential neighborhoods. Representatives are hearing this outcry. The 2019 Florida Attorney General opinion states that minor changes do not cause a city to lose its grandfathered status. It's time to pay for a legal opinion as to whether the elimination of our RV's grandfathered status can be challenged and regained on any of several fronts. Should that fail, let's go with Randy's May 2016 memorandum, in which he stated the city's best legal remedy to this problem is in Tallahassee. So these actions can be started by making a resolution to first pay for a legal opinion to determine if there's a way to claw back IRB's grandfathered status in 3 months. And the second is to hire a staff member to coordinate forming an alliance with the Florida counties and cities that are most affected, and existing groups, Airbnb Watch, Home Rule Florida, Big C, Florida League of Cities, and more. And then hire a lobbyist. It may be a long, hard fight to correct the injustice from commercial businesses being allowed in residential neighborhoods. But if you don't fight for the peace, safety, and sanctity of our homes and neighborhoods, what will we fight for? There are millions of people across Florida and across the United States that are fed up. You can be leaders to them. You can be heroes by making strong, decisive actions to gather communities together to fight this. In advance, thank you for taking strong, timely actions to correct this problem. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward tonight?
Good evening, Darlene Kavanaugh Ruzanowski. I'm speaking on behalf of my family at 450 Harbor Drive South. As you guys know, they have owned that property since the 80s, and they give me permission to speak today. We are also against the SRTs in the community. They bought the home, and it was all residential because it's at the end of Harbor Drive South, and it's all residential. We didn't buy next to the hotels next to Gulf Boulevard. So recently, for the first time, we've had to install cameras on the home there because we've received reports from the neighbors that people with out-of-state plates are parking in our yard and in the driveway, driving over our sprinklers, going in around the house asking neighbors, saying that they are the grandson. And this was very offensive because my son at that time was in ICU on a ventilator, saying that they got permission to go on the property, and they were from Indiana. We don't know anybody in Indiana. This is appalling, the tactics they're using to access our properties. So they're trespassing. I don't know what kind of criminal activity they're up to, but it's very scary. So anyway, overnight they're parking in the driveways, they're parking in the front of the lot. I've said this before, we're concerned about their emergency vehicles getting through. They've driven over our sprinkler heads. Golf carts are speeding with young kids at all hours late at night. Let's see, they almost hit my daughter's car several times this week. She asked me to mention that because she's a school teacher. So she was very shocked by that. I also heard somebody say in previous on social media that maybe they should be grandfathered in. Okay, well, maybe we should be grandfathered in because we were residential there first. SRTs were not. So I would just want to share that point. I wanted to speak there tonight and just say I'm going to try to make your meeting next week, but I wanted to bring this to the larger audience today also. I went online this week and I was shocked. There are over 50 SRTs from various companies, not just VRBO, Airbnb, but there are many companies. And there was over 50 just on our street alone, including Harbor Drive North. It was almost every other house. That's way too many. So I just want to bring it to your attention what's going on. The traffic has also increased. So it's becoming more dangerous, in my opinion, because you don't know who is your neighbor and who isn't, and what to look out for. So thank you very much, that's all.
Darlene, I don't want to get in a back and forth with you, because that's when I'm not supposed to do that, but I do have one question. Did you call the police when the car with the Indiana Did you call the police when that happened?
No, because I did not see it, so I did not. We set up cameras though shortly after now that,
Okay,
so,
thank you.
thank you.
Go ahead, Phil.
Evening, Phil Robel, 112 13th Avenue. Great taste of IRB. Joe, I know you're somewhat involved in it, but you were fishing. I'd like to thank the city, thought Greg would be here, for actually putting the avenue signs on the end of the boardwalks instead of facing north and south behind the seals. It helps a lot when you're walking. I mean, I may have walked the beach for 20-some years, but you still get mixed up on avenues now and then when you're walking, so it's good. I've been walking in the morning and I actually noticed 3 actual tax-paying residents that were playing pickleball. First time I've seen that, and I couldn't tell you how long. And I just, I think we should start charging these people that are from out of this city, because Largo's going to charge them, Safety Harbor's going to charge them, Clearwater, Seminole, they're going to charge them if they want to use their stuff, even though they live there. But they can come here and have it for free. And I can tell when it's 7 o'clock, because I live 3 blocks away, and now that it's nice to have the windows open, I know when it's 7 o'clock in the morning, because you can hear them loud as can be. Last of all, I don't know if everybody knows it here, they did, I know John Van Steele mentioned it, but a person that served the city for over 12 years on the commission, served as the homeowners president, was always involved in everything in the city back in the, I guess it would be 90s and early 2000s and all that. One of the first commissioners I ever met here, because he was one of the only ones that turned down something I came and asked for. And after that, I got to know who he was, and he was a great guy. He was a fantastic person in our city, and I just think it was so disrespectful that he was not mentioned in the 10 minutes of silence like people have been since I've been coming to meetings over 20 years ago. That just shows total disrespect and special privileges for special people that pass away, not everybody that's an important person in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time? Hi, Rod.
Rod Baker, 364 Bahia Vista. A couple of things. First thing is I want to just call the city's attention to some recommendations I sent. If we're not going to get rid of the short-term rentals anytime soon, there might be some levers we can pull that other cities in our county are pulling. Things like occupancy limitations and mandatory off-street parking spaces per occupant. And there's 5 ideas on there, so maybe next week have a look at them and can discuss them. And then secondly, I wanted to thank the city for, again, supporting our annual effort to clean the islands of Indian Rocks Beach and the intracoastal waterways by placing the dumpster at the boat ramp. And this year we got 200 pounds of plastic and bottles from the islands in the intracoastal waterway. Not a record-setting year, but in the wake of the response to Hurricane Ian, we had a decent number of volunteers. So thanks for that. Maybe next year you guys can do it again, and maybe even help us promote it to the city-wide or get some more people involved. Thank you again.
Thank you. Is anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time?
I just want to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. I know we're in class together and I have to do this for school, but it is on one of the agenda items. Should I wait until later?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, April.
Good evening. My name is Judy Sexton. I live at 405 Harbor Drive South. Thank you, John, for the signs. The entire strip of my neighborhood on Harbor Drive South, with the exception of a few, have had the signs removed just abruptly. And I don't know if anyone else here has had a sign in their home yard.
Judy, you have to speak to us, not the people.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry, I'm not really familiar with
that's
doing
fine.
this. But anyway, it's illegal to take property off of somebody's yard. I mean, it's trespassing. I mean, maybe the officers can address that. But there are several residences that had a sign opposing, which is their right to speak against short-term rentals. And they've been stolen property, personal property. And I just wanted to bring it to the attention. Is this a surprise?
The thing I'm going to ask you, and I'm not trying to get into a discussion with you, but
Okay.
did somebody call either the city or the sheriff to say the signs were gone?
I don't know. I don't know if that's
We don't
happened.
know that
I'm
they're
kind of
gone.
bringing it
Okay.
to light right now because it happened to me.
A report has been made.
Okay, thank you.
So there has been a report. So what do we do? I mean, there are people who have cameras. I think we need to seriously investigate this because it seems to me that there should be some arrest or something that should be done. I mean, clearly, this is not news that people are against the short-term rentals to the degree it's become. But when people begin to go yard to yard and collect these signs that are indicating what they stand for, I just think that that's really a serious offense to everyone on top. It's adding salt to a wound. So I would appreciate.
If anyone has any information, if you have anything on your cameras, either call the sheriff or call the city, and we'll get it to the sheriff, okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, no, fine. Anyone else like to come up at this time?
Hi. My name is Teresa Putnieska. I live at 316 6th Avenue. I'm here because I don't like what's happening in our residence. It used to be private residence area. Now it's business. I feel like I don't live in a property where I purchase, where I want to live in and have my family. It's business. Not only we inconvenience with the noise, with the traffic and everything else, we're not safe. There is a cost that comes with it too. There is more police protection and reports are being made because people come and have party and they disturb the peace. There is parking going on everywhere. So there is garbage that is produced by thousands. We don't produce that much in 1 week, what they do over the weekend, some of those rentals. So there is a cost, and not only we've been denied our living standards, we have to pay for somebody to have a business and benefit from it. And the worst part about it, those people, they live in Bel Air, and they come and trash our street, residential street, and make it business. That's a change of zoning. This is totally different living standard that we are forced to live, and we didn't ask for it. We didn't buy the property on that street for the reason to live on a business zone street. It was strictly residential. There were kids playing with the pets. Now nobody is safe to be on the street, even adults. There is so many golf carts going pass by. There's so many people, strange people walk by. Nobody knows anybody. It's awful. It's strange. I don't know what happened.
Chris, have you called the police?
The police has been called many times on our street. The inspectors helping us with the garbage left over, like garbage cans left over for 3 days on the street. They fall down, they make a mess. I mean, there was a lot of inconvenience, there was a lot of mess, and our living standards has changed drastically. We don't have what we paid for in order to live on that street and enjoy our life. It's business, and we did not bargain for that at all. We didn't, and we don't want that. We want them to go away. People are moving out of our streets because they came with a family and pets, and they cannot enjoy that street anymore as a residential area. It's business. They leave it. They're going somewhere where they can be secured, a residential area for the kids or family. So So it's sad what's happening to our street. I don't like it, I've been there forever. And I don't like the way it's changing. This has to be stopped. Not only that, it has to be reversed. Because we didn't ask for it. Who had the right to change this? On what basis? Who volunteered our living of standards for somebody to benefit business-wise? I mean, those people who run the business on our street, they live in Berrien, in a secure residential area, and yet they trash our residential area. That's bad. And we're paying for it because there is cost. There is cost for upkeep of the rental property.
I understand, Chris, your time is up. I have to cut you off, and I do
Great.
apologize.
Thank you very much, and please consider, I'll be back next week. What time is it next week?
6 o'clock.
Thursday? All right.
It's Wednesday. Tuesday. Anyone else who'd like to speak before we close the public hearing? Anyone else who'd like to speak before we close the public hearing? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Report of the city attorney, Randy Moore.
Very briefly, Madam Mayor, as has been noted for all present, there will be a workshop next week on Tuesday at 6 p.m. in this building to discuss short-term rentals in this community, reminding the body that in a workshop we are not taking any official acts, but brainstorming, working with the community, and otherwise to consider solutions, but no official acts, no ordinances are being adopted or resolutions passed next week. That said, continue to work with the manager on other issues in the code as we approach the time of year where session will begin, tracking what starts happening in committee once they convene. Otherwise, I am happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Does anyone have any questions for Randy tonight? Jude, do you have any questions? Okay. We'll start with the city commission. Vice Mayor McCall? No, no, Commissioner.
Previous Vice Mayor.
Previous.
Previous Vice Mayor.
Jeez.
It's all right, Craig.
Jeez. Shoot me, get it over with.
Just a little late. Just real quick, Mike Fowler provided me a little bit regarding the Homeowners Association and Taste of IRB. As Phil noted, it was a great success. Again this year, great feedback from really the participants, the sponsors and the vendors. Just to let folks know, along with Action 2000, you know, we put on these events for the city as fundraisers and, you know, donate those funds back into the city or various city projects. But it did take over 100 volunteers, and I like to stress that. It's volunteers that put that on, so if you're in the crowd, we thank you. It's always fun to be a volunteer. And but over 100 to put that on. They would like to make a special shout out to Krabby Bill's, Century 21 Pagans, and Plumley Realty were the main sponsors for that event. And also, as Phil mentioned, they would like to thank the city for their partnership, and especially Mr. Bob Ashley, that was there basically from start to finish, and just always a great help there. So we really had a great event, and they're already planning their next in this year's Holiday Joy Drive. So this is something we partner a lot with Century 21. However, it is starting for November and December. The first event will be November 14th at Anecdote Brewery. And basically the toys, goods, and so forth will be going to partnering with the Food Pantry, Shepherd's Village, Miracle on the Bay, and Silver Santas. And so there will be bins placed throughout the city to be able to drop off items to help those folks. And just get in touch with Mary Beth or Mike from the HOA if you have any questions on what would be useful for them. And Basically, the last mix and mingle for the year was at Anecdote. There before the Taste of IRB. They'll start back up in January again. And just as far as the donation, he wanted me to point out that they did donate $1,500 to the hurricane relief for Ian. And we also just purchased a Little League banner for the new ball field. Other than that, it's been a busy month for those guys. And I went fishing, but I was there for an hour. First taste I've missed in about 10 years, but I made it there for the last hour. But no, all in all, great deal, and it's holiday event season, so here we go.
Thank you, Joe. Commissioner Hanna?
I'm not a vice mayor.
No, you're not.
You were vice mayor.
Many times you were.
A couple of times. Nothing tonight, thank you. In light of the weather, I'll keep my comments to that.
Vice Mayor?
Well, Quickie, I sent you the information on the November 19th IRB Fitness 5th year anniversary party, where we're taking on the Pinellas Suncoast Fire Department in a boot camp style workout to include tug of war. So if you want to join us, it's November 19th at 8 a.m. at the Ninth Beach Access.
Are you ready? All right, anything else? Everybody, okay. Several things I wanted. Jude, Commissioner Bond, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I don't. I'm here for recycling.
Okay. Thank you, all the way from Italy. I wanted to just go over the calendar for November, December, since everybody's here. We have, there's an A2K meeting, a monthly meeting on the 14th. Our special commission meeting, which has already been mentioned about the vacation rentals, will be 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 15th. On the 19th, the Beach Arts Center is having a holiday arts and craft, and on the 19th will also be a citywide garage sale, and also on the 20th. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to go into just the December, because for everyone to know that on the second Friday, December 2nd, is our holiday lighting, tree lighting that we always do every year. That's at 7 p.m. On the 4th, we will have the holiday street parade. Just see if there, on the 13th of December at 7 p.m. is our regular city commission meeting. And then the boat parade is on the 17th. And Deanne, is this all on the website so everybody can see it if they go to the website?
Yes.
Is it on there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. Thank you for that. A couple of, I was going to bring up about, is this a good time for me to bring up about the ordinance? Or should I do it under additions and deletions?
You're free to bring it up whenever you wish.
Okay. I was talking to Mayor Johnson, our previous mayor, and about an ordinance that he has, I believe he's talked to all of you about it. And we had some conversation, in the ordinance is 110-131, and he thinks that there's a discrepancy about the code, would like to see, I suggested maybe bringing it back to the Planning and Zoning Board. How does the commission feel? Would you like to entertain that, or you're not interested? How do you feel about that? Phil?
I think that's fine. I think it's a clarification and interpretation issue, so it wouldn't hurt to have fresh eyes on it.
I agree. Denise? Jim?
Agreed.
Okay. Whenever we can put that on a... Jude, are you okay with that?
Sorry, Jude, could you say that again? You weren't in the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if we, somehow in the near future, if we could get that on the P&Z to have a look at that ordinance, I appreciate it. Okay. I do, Jim Palomar, who was a commissioner, in fact, we were commissioners together my very first time around. We sat next to each other. I held my first gun with him. We've known each other for many years. It wasn't at this meeting, it was at the previous meeting, and I had it on my paper, and I forgot to say something. So it is my bad. I am it's my fault that we didn't say anything under the 10 seconds. John Feinstein did come up to the podium and did a 3 or 4 minute, and it was beautiful what he said about Commissioner Palomara, and there absolutely, I would not do that on purpose. It was a slight, but I would never do that to him. I loved him like everybody else, so I just want you to know that, and I do apologize. I feel like there was something else I had to bring up here, but if I think of it, we'll bring it up later, and we'll move on to additions and deletions. Are there any for tonight? Okay, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Would you please read the consent agenda?
Happily, Madam Mayor, there are 2 items on the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the September 21, 2022 Special City Commission meeting minutes. And item B, approval of the October 11, 2022 regular City Commission meeting minutes.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
And is there a second?
I was absent.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jude, are you in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
we got it.
Okay. We will now go to public hearings. 6A, ordinance number 2022-03. This is a second and final reading. Deanne, could you please present this?
Before we do that, I'll read the title. This is City of Indian Rocks Beach ordinance number 2022-03. An ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Commission, Division 1, generally, Section 2-31, compensation of members, providing for an increase in the City Commission's monthly compensation, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances or partial ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance 2022-03 by title only.
Denise? Deanne.
This is second and final reading for ordinance number 2022-03, and it's increasing the city commission salary by $100 per month. And I wanted to mention the last time that there was a salary increase they received was in 2015. And this would take place after the March election.
Thank you. Any questions for the commission at this time? Hearing none, I'm going to open the public comment. Is there anyone who would like to say anything on this agenda item? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment. And is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve ordinance 2022-03.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments from the major?
No, ma'am.
Deanne, do you want to call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hausberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanna?
Yes.
Commissioner McCall?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes, motion carries. We're going to move on to 6B, BOA case number 2021-13. This is 525 20th Avenue. Randy, would you please read?
Happily, Madam Mayor, before we begin, please be reminded that Board of Adjustment case number 2022-13 concerning 525 20th Avenue is a quasi-judicial hearing. In a quasi-judicial hearing, you are not making the law, but rather applying the law to the competent, substantial, factual evidence presented to you this evening. I wish to state clearly for the record that while Member Bond is appearing remotely, he cannot participate in the vote on this matter, as he is not here to witness any and all evidence that may be provided. With that, this is considering a variance request from section 94-86-8A1 of the Code of Ordinances to encroach 9 feet into the required 12-foot side yard setback, resulting in a total side yard setback of 3 feet along the northern property line, and to encroach 5 feet 10 inches into the required 12-foot side yard setback, resulting in a total side yard setback of 6 feet 2 inches along the southern property line for a new dock, boat lift, and personal watercraft lifts for the property located at 525 20th Avenue, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and legally described as Lot 46 in RIP RTS 15th edition to re-revised map of Indian Beach, parcel number 06 3015 423 00-000-001. 0460. This will be presented on the city staff by planning consultant Harmon, who is appearing by phone. Ms. Harmon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Before I open it for anyone else, given that you're appearing telephonically, Ms. Harmon, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are going to give before this body is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
With that, if there's anybody who intends to speak on this matter, whether you are the applicant, the agent, property owner, or a member of the public who intends to speak during this hearing, can you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Before we proceed to city staff, has any member of this body had any ex parte communications with the applicant or their agent on this application?
No.
No.
All having responded in the negative, has any member of this body conducted a site visit for the limited purpose of evaluating this application? That is to say, you have gone to or visited the property for the purpose of evaluating the application, not that you are generally aware of its existence by your presence in the community?
No.
No. Jude?
All having responded in the negative, with that, Hetty, you may present for city staff.
Okay, Dan, go to the first location map, the aerial map for 525 20th Avenue.
The slide has been advanced. We're there.
Okay, so this is the general location. As you can see, it's a curve in 20th Avenue. Go to the next slide.
We're there.
Okay, as you can see, this is the property at 525 20th Avenue. And he's asking for, the side yard setbacks for the dock on either side. Both property owners have signed off on it. And go to the next slide.
We're there.
Okay, and as you can see, they are going to have the dock and then the boat lift on one side, on the northern side. And then on the south side, there's 2 jet ski lifts. Now these jet ski lifts actually lift up out of the water and flip over the dock on this. So when the boats are not in use, the setback will beat the 12 foot almost. So, and with that, they did, ask originally for an extension of the 50 foot, up to 50 foot, which they do meet. So that is not part of this variance. And with that, I'm going to ask if there's any questions.
Hetty, couple things. Yes, ma'am. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Couple questions. First of all, if I read correctly, it says the BOA denied it, but it was approved by the city. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm sorry. The city staff did recommend approval on that. Both neighbors did sign off on it, and they did agree to it, and the BOA did deny it on a vote of 5-0.
Can you explain that? I did read it, but I think it should be explained why they denied it.
They felt that they were putting too much within that site.
Okay.
We looked at various dock variances, but they just felt that they could narrow the dock or, something like that. But if they narrow the dock, then the boat lifts, when they flip up out of the water, are going to take it, 3 to 4 feet of the 12 foot wide dock.
Does anyone have any questions for Hetty before I ask the applicant to come forward?
Yeah, Hetty, this is Commissioner McCall. I'm just looking at the aerial view. Is the dock or the lift that's already there, is that basically the same position? It's blurry, so I can't really tell. It looks like it's sitting right on the property line.
Right, they all do when you look at that, but
if you look at the aerial view of the dock,
I'm going to probably have to turn that over to the applicant to answer that.
Okay.
But from a previous permit that we looked at, it was still off the property line.
Looks like it's sitting right on. Perfect. Yep, you may come.
Any other questions? Because I thought what I'll do is I'll bring the applicant up and maybe he can answer some questions, Joe.
Sure.
Okay. If you'd like to come forward. Hi, please give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Jason Rogers. I'm with Priority Marine. My address is 1621 Navigator Lane, Tarpon Springs.
Do you want to answer the question?
It's his floor to present before we get to questions.
Okay. Well, I can start off with that to begin with. Right now, with the current permitted structure, it's 5 feet off. That lift is 5 foot off. Okay. And it's kind of got a weird jaunt, like they've added on to it over time, so it kind of shifted it. So what we're requesting, and we came in and originally I got up here and felt comfortable with everything. The city had recommended approval, and then discussion was made about adjacent property owners being able to pull their boat in if they sell their lot, what may happen, but technically they can't cross those riparian lines. And we've got both neighbors sign off. So when we spin the lifts up, the jet ski lifts, those are going to take up 5 to 6 feet on the dock, and I've got pictures if you want to see what we're talking about whenever we talk about the spinner lift for the jet skis. So we're trying to squeeze that in, still giving room to access the boat lift, and have a functional dock by going out that far where they can get out. Another thing I did find on with the code is it's 12 feet. But then once you go to a 45 inverse pi, those setbacks change. So it's kind of changed after this whole thing was presented to the BOA. So we go to 10 foot and then it comes down and you can go to a 5 foot setback. That is section 94-86A3 on the code, on Indian Rocks code. So technically we're requesting 2 feet on the right side and then nothing on the left side, looking at the drawing out of the water. And my big thing is both neighbors approved this, and that's a big thing, having good neighbors that want to work with you on a pie-shaped lot. A lot of times the municipalities, you don't have to go to the hearing if you have the adjacent property owners on that, and they're all trying to work with each other. The neighbor to the left has a dock that's 3 foot off currently, that's permitted, and he's good. He's good with that.
What, Jason, what is your hardship?
The setbacks.
Does anyone else have any questions for Jason? And I'll let him sit down. Do you have any questions for him? Yes.
Why are you wanting the head of the dock to be so wide?
Because what we're doing is like, when they spoke with the neighbor to the left, he's got his dock is right there and his lift's on the opposite side. Okay. So that, and they're just working, we're gonna spin those jet ski lifts spin up onto the dock, so they'll be stored up on the dock. Okay. But when you spin them up onto the dock, a jet ski's 4 foot wide, 11 foot long, a lot of these new ones. And that's taking up some of that 12 foot where they access to get to the boat. So it takes up a little more when you do spin that up. So that's why we're looking for the 12 foot out at the end there and that length. Because most of the time, I mean, those are gonna stay up on the dock and not even be encroaching on the 12 foot.
Okay, I'm just concerned about the neighbors. I know that they're signed off. If these people ever sell their properties, what happens to them if they decide to do something? I'm not convinced that the land can cause a hardship. I understand that. But that's what I was hoping, that if there were a way to bring that head in just a little bit, even if they stayed hung out or, like most jet ski lifts, still would achieve the same thing. Even though you don't get the ability to spin. I mean, or you have the capability. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but now with what I just mentioned with the section 94-86, really doesn't apply to the left side because we're within that 5 feet on a pie shape lot, the main one we're worried about. And you can't, I mean, we have setbacks and everything still, and if somebody built that on the other side,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. There's some talking going on in the background just from the way the acoustics work. It's really hard to hear up here. If anybody else is having conversations, you're free to have them, just please step out. It's just hard to hear up here. Thank you. You can continue, sir.
But we're staying within those riparian lines, so in case the neighbor to the right, the neighbor to the left just built a new dock. Okay. It's not that old. I think it's like 2 years or something like that. Spieler built it, I think back in 2020, I believe is when that was permitted. So that's the one with the jet skis, they give plenty of room. And he's kind of worked it like, hey, if I pull a boat up here, you know, he'd be able to cross that repairing line, but they've kind of got that relationship. So with new docks or somebody who buys that, they still can't cross over those repairing lines either way. And we're trying to stay in with those. And on this side, on the right side, we're requesting it's 5 foot and we're asking for 3 foot, just so they have room to, you know, and others in the area. It's tough when you get in that pie-shaped lot.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be very fortunate, because if a neighbor says no, I mean, there's nothing you can do, and I can understand it. Both neighbors have agreed to this. The one neighbor on the right has davits, and you know, they could someday put in, you know, a lift with the, it's a pontoon they have, 9 foot, so it's coming over close to that property line as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Jason? Jason, I'm going to sit right there in the front row for a minute, and I'm going to go back to Hetty. Do you have any? Yeah, I will that too. Hetty, do you have any other questions before I go out to the public?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do you have any rebuttal, anything else that you want to say, Jason, before the commission deliberates? Any questions? It's kind of unusual for the city to approve something and then everybody on the BOA voted against it. I'm just throwing that out there.
Ultimately, that's for you folks as the final quasi-judicial body adjudicating the matter to weigh those decisions. And neither the recommendation of the Board of Adjustment or the city staff is binding on your decision-making, but you certainly can consider those facts.
Well, I mean, that's the reason we have a board, is so that we can, you know, we put them there, they take their time to be a part of our community and be on our boards that, you know, I think their input is valuable to us. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not against or for, I'm just mentioning that that's kind of unusual. Hetty, anything else that you want to add to this?
No, it's just that, I mean, historically, we've, you know, approved a lot of variances for docks. That's all I have to say. And, you know, in other communities, you know, they do just let them go if both neighbors sign off on it. So that's all I'm going to add.
I'll advise you guys, just from a legal standpoint, each variance application stands on its own. And we, for your decision-making, is bound by the criteria in your code and not that which is in other communities.
Looking for a motion?
Should I get a question?
Yes.
So Hetty, is he correct on the ordinance on the pie-shaped lot that the variance that's asked for in this application is different? It shouldn't be a 12-foot setback, it should only be 5?
Well, actually the code reads under 45 feet, and this lot is just at 45 feet, so that's, you know.
Well, looking for a motion to at least have a discussion, more discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve. You can go from there, Joe.
BOA case.
Oh, I'm sorry. BOA case 2022-13. Sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Discussion from the maker?
No, the only thing I'm concerned about is there's just an awful lot going on out there. The lots are small. I got a 50-foot dock, and my lot is a little larger than that one. I don't have a jet ski. But I always caution people that when the purchaser bought it, they saw what they bought, and if they had plans to do something like that, that's fine. But you know, it's sort of like years ago, we had a lady come in. She just bought a gorgeous boat, and RB, I know will remember this case, and she wanted a larger dock, and at that time code wouldn't allow it. We didn't do it. She was all upset, and rightfully so, but the fact of the matter is, you should have checked it out before you came and bought the boat. So I believe we turned that one down. But due to the fact that this is pie-shaped, this is a case, I think the hardship is the fact the land causes it, so.
Denise?
I have no comment.
Okay. Any comments? Jude, do you have any comments?
Jude is no longer on the line at the moment.
Okay. Joe?
I do think they're getting pushed in two directions. For one, from what I read, they have a mean water problem.
Right.
Right, which is pushing them out to the 50-foot, which is just basically exacerbating the property line, just getting smaller and smaller and pushing it in.
Right.
I mean, if you're pulling that back to a normal 36-foot dock, you know, you may not even have an issue, right? I mean, I agree with Phil. I mean, pie-shaped lots are tough to deal with. I personally feel that going to the extra expense of having a swing-in jet ski lift is probably are not cheap to try to accommodate and keep a viable, you know, space on the south of the dock. You know, I really don't have a problem with it. I don't think you're much further out of the current footprint either.
Deanne, you want to call the roll?
I would request the city attorney explain Commissioner Bond's voting regarding the BOA.
It was read into the record at the outset of the hearing that he would not be voting
Okay,
owing to his
I
physical
didn't hear it, I'm
absence.
sorry.
Okay.
Might not have been paying attention.
That's fine.
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hausberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanna,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes. Motion carries. Good luck with your dog.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to move on to other legislative matters. Ordinance number 2022-07. This is a first reading. Randy, would you like to present this and read the ordinance?
Happily, Madam Mayor, this is ordinance number 2022-07, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to Section 74-63 of the city's Code of Ordinances pertaining to the operation of vessels within the city's coastal waters in the Gulf of Mexico, providing for the incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to the city's code to establish a public bathing beach area limited to manually propelled vessels only to conform to Florida statutes and administrative code, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This has been a first reading of ordinance number 2022-07. This ordinance should not be a surprise to you. This ordinance was workshopped about 2 or 3 months ago by this body. As you may recall from the workshop materials and discussion at the time, that the state agencies with jurisdiction in the coastal waters found that the buoy system that we have out at present is not in conformity with the statutory regime for coastal waters that way. There are a few categories of designations you can make, and a low wake zone, absent a host of other factors, is not one of them. Low or no wake zone. And so with that, we were presented with a few options, in which we discussed at some length. And the general consensus of this body was an inclination towards the exclusion of motorized vessels from the buoyed area. Excuse me. And one of the feedback comments we got as a concern from Member Bond, who's not on the line at the moment, was also a concern about wind-powered or other or alternatively powered vessels going at high speed within that same area but not having a motor. After significant research and time spent conferring with FWC and their counsel, we found a solution within the law. This is a product of the code coming into compliance with Florida Statute 327.46 and the Florida Administrative Code, which serves to interpret it. Under that statutory regime, you're allowed to establish vessel exclusion zones. Another option you would have had to say no buoys and anything can come and go, whatever it is. The will of this body was to lean towards a vessel exclusion zone. A vessel exclusion zone is defined as an area from which all vessels of certain classes of vessels are excluded. Within those categories, we're allowed to designate them as the vessel exclusion zone. There's a few categories you can pick from, and one of those categories is a public bathing beach. Interestingly, the term public bathing beach is not specifically defined in the administrative code or the statute, though other categories or subcategories are. The benefit of that is that we then can use our home rule powers and define it as best meets our community's needs as articulated by you, the representatives. I wish to be very clear, I don't make policy here, you folks do. And so the policy that you folks, that is attempted to be captured here would be that what is presently understood to be a no anchoring zone would transition to the vessel exclusion zone, which would be a public bathing beach. And in this area, in this public bathing beach, by operation of the regulation, all vessels other than those propelled by oars, paddles, or poles are prohibited from entering the marked area. Vessels equipped with sails or mechanical means of propulsion may enter the marked area only if the sails or mechanical means of propulsion is not in use, and if possible to do so, the mechanical means of propulsion is tilted or raised out of the water, or otherwise not engaged. And so that's the way that this is designed to work. I have sent this to sort of get ahead of this before we end up at first and second reading, and then I've already sent a draft of this to FWC personnel earlier this week. They had one limited edit that I would be prepared to do before this goes to second reading, which would be to very specifically identify the area that this covers. It does cover the corporate boundaries from north to south along the Gulf Coast. It's not subsections or subdivided portions of the beach, so it's a very easy thing to say. We're not saying a little bit here, a little bit there. The contemplated format of this, and it does sort of allude to that within the whereas clauses and otherwise, but we can make that more explicit for them, but they otherwise felt that this was in conformity with the kind of compliance they were seeking from the community. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, ma'am.
Any questions for Randy at this time? Hearing none, I will open the public comment. Would like to come forward?
Rod Baker, 364 Bahia Vista. I just want to caution against this because it begins to step on the culture of Indian Rocks Beach and the residents that live here again. There's a lot of people that launch small fishing boats from the beach with motors, and they go out to the rock piles and fish. And the city's gotten in trouble before when they've usurped control that they can, seemingly in the moment, but violate constitutional guarantees in the state of Florida, like the right to fish, and the statement that fishing is part of the culture as defined by the Florida Constitution. So, to do this throughout the whole city would mean that people that grew up here and have boats on the beach, motors that go out fishing the rock pile can't do that anymore legally. And maybe they could row out, I guess, but I think it would make more sense to do this around the public beach that the city owns and not try to do it across all the private beaches in the entire city at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Good evening, Mayor Kennedy and Commissioners. My name is April Jenkins, a 111.
April, before you go on, I have to tell everybody in the audience. So April and I are in class together at SPC. We're both finishing our degrees in public policy and public administration. And our professor this semester told all of us that we had to do a public first reading on some agenda item somewhere throughout the county. So she's the third one from my class who's come here, so I'm so happy we've had a lot of first readings, so I hope I didn't embarrass you.
No.
Okay, good.
Not a problem. My address is 1113 Ohio Avenue in Dunedin. Clearly I'm not a resident here in Indian Rocks Beach, and my face is normally not this colorful. I had a dentist incident last week that went awry. I am currently a student in public policy and administration, the bachelor program at St. Petersburg College. I'm here tonight to address agenda item 7A, ordinance number 2022-07, regarding the buoy system and waterway markers. After reviewing several of the documents from the original buoy system, as well as the updated Florida statute number 327.46, the current agenda item, and I also had an interview with Public Works Director Dean Sharman, I do agree with the recommendation that the city adopts the new ordinance designating this as a swim zone or boating restricted area. As this is a state statute that had changed and the city's required to comply, The goal must be how to do that as quickly and efficiently as possible. By designating that area as a swim zone, it makes it fair to all the residents and eliminates any confusion as to where the areas are. Additionally, since Indian Rocks Beach gets a fair amount of tourist traffic and they would not be familiar with the rules, this makes enforcement easier for FWC across the board. I believe this does address the current buoy system issue adequately and would be the most reasonable way to be compliant in the shortest amount of time. Additionally, Mr. Sharman did indicate to me that aside from hiring a marine contractor to set the buoys, the city is able to save substantial costs by maintaining the buoy system themselves. As budget issues are something a city always has to consider, I do believe this demonstrates fiscal responsibility and the residents should be pleased Commission considers this when making decisions. I would like to express my gratitude to Mayor Kennedy for assisting me with this project, as well as Mr. Mims for putting me in contact with Mr. Sharman. He was extremely helpful with providing information and documentation, was very gracious with his time, both during the interview as well as several follow-up conversations. Thank you for what you all do for this city, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item at this time? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Does anyone have any questions for Randy? Yes.
Randy, could you possibly address what Rod was talking about as far, I understand either or, but I mean, it's motorized getting out to the fishing area out there, so I didn't know if that could be excluded or certain lanes or whatever, just thought I'd ask.
Ultimately, you folks, as the policymakers, have the ability to define the boundaries of any vessel exclusion zone or zones that would be established, and we could make that clear in markings. Nothing in this ordinance prohibits fishing in the area. Understanding the concerns about the viability of getting one's vessel from A to B through that area, as written, nothing prohibits a boat or vessel from being in that area so long as it is not under motorized or artificial or wind power at the time. The equities that were being balanced based on the commentary from the public and this body were the ability for people to traditionally recreate, swim, fish, play in that area, or also paddleboarding, canoeing, kayaking, all of which are perfectly permissible in the area as written. It would be, to the extent the current practice is that boats are allowed to traverse that area, this with their motors engaged, as long as they're in some kind of low speed situation, we can't regulate in that fashion any longer. And so this was the best means to adapt to that. If it was the desire of the commission to create any kind of carve out of some portion of the beach or of those coastal waters, you may have the ability to do that, and that could be marked by buoys. I'm not representing to you that you cannot. I have one other thought that's escaping me at this moment, but that would be my answer.
Okay, it's good, thank you.
Randy, there was a comment made about violating constitutional rights. Do you think that we're doing any kind of thing, doing anything like that?
I would not advise you to ever violate the Constitution in how I draft ordinances. That said, there's no ordinance, any ordinance is susceptible to a constitutional challenge. The viability of it I'm not going to opine on because I'd have to see what the challenge is particularly. This ordinance is a function of our civic system of government, in which our local government reports to the county, who reports to the state, who reports to the federal government, who reports to. You understand what I mean in terms of hierarchies, and the state is dictated through its administrative code and statutes that the ordinances that we have establishing this sort of like safety zone, no anchoring zone, are not viable. And to the extent we have buoys that say no wake, low wake, we can't have them there. Were that it could be changed, and this is not the only beach community in Pinellas that's facing this. In fact, in part, this is the product of another beach community having this reported and then saying, then certain members of that community saying, well, if we have it, what about? And FWC saying, oh, thanks for letting us know. You know, so As far as to answer the constitutional challenge question, I'm not going to opine on a legal claim I haven't seen made. I certainly wouldn't advise that you violate your residents' constitutional rights in my advice.
Well, and we were contacted by the Fish and Wildlife Commission that we had to make changes.
And in fact, well, the correspondence, the communication I had with them concerning this draft ordinance was them following up with us earlier in the week and saying, hey, we talked to you guys in June, we're coming to the end of the year, where are you with this? They are tracking this and wanting to see some resolution, whatever that may be, within the scope of your discretion as the policymakers.
Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion one way or the other?
Well, I mean, what do you think? You think we'll be out to maybe just exclude the motorized vessels in the public beach area of 17th and not in other areas where people are fishing? Or put their sailboats in?
How are you going to enforce that?
I don't know. How do you enforce a stop sign, Cookie?
I mean, well, we have police.
Yeah,
For that.
I mean, it's like we can't just say, well, if it's not enforceable, we can't do it.
Well, I mean, that's up to the commission. So, I know that the Florida Wildlife Commission, they reached out to us, and we have to comply to a certain extent. And they're monitoring us. You can't talk from right now. Well, you can't talk. We have closed the public comment at this time.
I mean, that's the thing. Should we just shut down the whole beach to all motorized vessels?
In that zone?
I think what Member Hausberg is talking about is if you, for lack of a demonstrative, if this entire screen it were to be your beach, presently what this does is the whole parallel. She's saying if there was a carve-out or a series of carve-outs where that was permissible, so let's say if you said everything except where the logo is in the middle, the buoys wouldn't be there, and you could launch from that area or go into that area freely. You can create interrupted. It doesn't need to be all or nothing. That's certainly an option. It was in the previous discussion did not. That was not something this body expressed, so that's not memorialized in this draft. If you wished to do that, you could do that. I would suggest that you have some basis for the where and the why of it. But you know, the other, just because it's my job to give you folks both sides of that. The other side of it they look at is invariably it's sort of the reverse NIMBY of, well, why not my street? Why not my street? But ultimately, you folks live and recreate in this community. You know your community well and that of your residents. So I would just, again, I'm not the policymaker. You can do that if you desire. Just give us the guidance. We'll draft it as such, and we can proceed from there. Or you can go as is. It's really up to you folks.
Yes.
So I guess if we kind of mandated by Fish and Wildlife to do this, we almost have to address that to get that box checked. If we find out that there is a way we could make these carve-outs, you may have some ideas on how to do that. We could possibly go by, run that by, and do an addendum to it later.
I mean, you know, I joke with my sister's a physician, and I sometimes joke with her that in my practice we don't make mistakes, we make amendments. Yes, you could certainly make amendments, and that's tongue-in-cheek. I'm not suggesting that there's not consequences for decisions. There always are. You could certainly amend it at a later time if you so desired. I want to be really clear, though, when you say, you know, we could look into how to do that, it is from epic numbers that are not in this community to avoid any issue. From 139th Street to 152nd Street, right, along the beach, that area is accepted, and it would look like a channel, and then the buoys would, you know, look like rectangles with a hole in the middle. That's all it takes to define the boundaries of it. It's a policy decision.
But that would be something we'd have to go to Fish and Wildlife.
No. I mean, you would tell them this is our ordinance. We have established 2 public bathing beaches. They are everything north of 139th Street and everything south of 120th Street.
Okay.
And you get to define the boundaries of it, and then once it, as far as the it of it all, the public bathing beach, the vessel exclusion zone, whatever moniker you choose to use, that's where the heavy lifting is, and then you're just saying, where on your map are you laying them? The prior discussion didn't have delineations made in terms of the, we want it here versus there, so you have a draft that looks that way. But you folks as the policymakers have the ability to change that draft if you have a desire to do so and know how you wish. If you feel that you're not in a position to make an informed decision, you always have the ability to, and I'm again not advising you to do anything, I'm just making sure you know your options. You can also table an ordinance. Ultimately, it's your decision whether you're comfortable with the draft you have before you, you want to talk through an alternative, or you want to say, I'm not ready yet. And that's, you know, your parliamentary solution or option is that as well.
Joe, any comments?
Yeah, I think if you're gonna start doing cutouts, then what are they gonna be? 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, 25th? Pick a number, right? As a boater from the other side, I think it was Treasure Island Beach I was on, they don't have any buoys at all. Very unnerving. You're running right beside people swimming. I mean, you're running down the beach and there's absolutely nothing there. You don't know where they're at. They don't know where I'm running, right? I mean, you always have your head on a swivel on a boat, but still. Bouncing in and out. Obviously, we just spent about 2 hours talking about tourism. Do we really think our weekly visitors are going to understand, well, I can swim here, not here. Well, I can't be in this channel, but I can be in that channel. I can swim in that box, but not this box. I just think you're, and I appreciate Rod's deal, and I see a lot of kayakers out there, and I see a lot of people paddling out, and they paddle outside the buoys, and they fish right outside. They fish the old pier, and they fish the rock piles. So I 100% agree. If you're running a motor, in my mind, it's all or nothing. I mean, you either want motors inside where people are swimming. I mean, the time I've been on the commission, we've had meltdowns on people fishing in beach areas, right? Fishing lures.
Right.
Now you're talking about boats running inside swim areas, right? I just think you're causing a safety hazard by trying to, and causing yourself, or causing an undue battle of where these cutouts would be. Our swim area is not 2 miles deep. It's actually very short. You can walk most of it. I've parked outside and walked to the beach before. It's not that tough. Just my opinion. I think we ought to meet FWC's compliance. We're already spending $40,000 for our new buoys. You know, if you're planning on cutouts, you're just going to keep increasing the costs.
Good point.
Just my opinion.
Any other comments? No? Looking for a motion from anyone?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2022-07.
I'll second.
Any more comments? from
No, I
anyone?
think Joe brings up probably the most critical point is safety. And I've been out there, and when I bring my boat kind of in, I can look and see. I don't go past those buoys. That's do not enter. And I remember back in our own code, we had a man that we used to call him the head. He was bald-headed. I can say that now. And we'd go out, and all of a sudden he would be doing like a breaststroke, and he'd disappear. Well, one time he popped right up in front of my boat, and luckily I was able to turn. If I'd have been looking at something else, you know, I wouldn't have to worry about him or me anymore. I wouldn't be here. So, yeah, I think safety is the first thing, and this is probably the smart way to go.
Any comments, Joe? Any other comments?
I made mine. Thank you.
Is Jude with us or no?
No, but I'm going to call him when we sign. Are you going to try to call him right now? Or?
No, I'd wait till we're done then.
Okay.
Denise, any other comments before I call for roll call?
No.
Deanne, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Hausberg?
No.
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hannah.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes. Thank you. April, do you need a picture? You know, because we don't, it's not on, you know, we only have the audio.
Oh, then yeah, probably at the end.
Okay, you wait till the very end. Okay, thank you. All right, we are going to move on to 7B, which is discuss and authorize the city manager to execute a First Amendment exclusive residential recycling service contract. I'm going to turn this over at this time to the finance director, Dan Carpenter, and if you would like to just go over where we're at. Do you want Randy to say anything beforehand, or I'm going to go right to you?
This is the end, we're starting with recycling.
No, I don't like to go after Randy.
Okay, you're fine.
Good call, good call.
All these people have been nice enough to sit through our meeting tonight, so.
Well, yes, thank you, and I'm going to try and fill in for Dean Sharman, so I'll do my best, but I am familiar with this item. I'll set this up, I guess, just go back a little bit. We first entered into an agreement with our current recycling contractor, Waste Connections, I believe it was about 2018, and most people probably would remember that because that's when we got the new larger blue recycle containers that roll down, same size as your garbage container. Since 2018, we've renewed or renegotiated or extended that agreement with Waste Connections several times. We got to this fall and we went to look to renew or extend actually the current agreement. And you know, the company Waste Connections just wasn't in a position based on, I believe, you know, the state of recycling and the inflationary cost to extend the contract under the provisions that were allowable to extend. So that kind of led us to where we're at now, publicly discussing this, and we started that last month with a workshop, which was, you know, kind of the beginning about, you know, staff asking for policy direction from the commission. And we provided some insight and some information about where we've been, where we were at, and where we thought we could go. And out of that workshop, really there was not unanimous consensus from the commission to do one thing specifically, but what we got was majority consensus to look at two particular ways to go with recycling. One being try and do some in-house hybrid recycling where we would collect it at central locations and try and contract with the city of Largo to get that stuff picked up. And that was, you know, just involving aluminum and cardboard, which I believe, you know, was identified as the most valuable commodities in the recycle bin. And the other direction we were given from commission was to continue to negotiate with Waste Connections and/or look at ways to keep the recycling program in the same form or format that it's been, where it's curbside for our residential single-family homes and our multifamily condominiums. So that was done over since we met last month, and the option of centralized collection and then working with Largo was really not logistically or a viable option after further discussion, after we got direction from the commission to do that. You know, the city of Largo really just wasn't in a position to accommodate, you know, the volume or the pickup schedule that we had at this point. So that was tabled, and then of course the other direction we got from the commission was to continue to look at, you know, what can we do to keep the recycling program the same it was, the same as it's been since 2018. And you know, the timing was good on that. The city of Madeira Beach had gone out to the street for a request for proposal, an RFP, and I believe entertained financial, you know, proposals for curbside recycling from multiple entities, as many as half a dozen or more, including our existing contractor, Waste Connections. So with that amount, Dean, you know, worked with our current contractor and, you know, basically some back and forth negotiation, some agreement that they would be willing to continue our curbside in the same manner it is now for the same price that was awarded at the Madeira Beach. So, and you know, to put that into financial terms, you know, it's $11.53 per single family home, and then there's a $28.63 per condominium charge. So those are the same prices Madeira Beach, you know, got out of their RFP efforts. It does take our existing agreement that we entered the year into that expires in December from about 239,000 to 389,000 total for a whole year for all recycling. That equates to the need to increase all solid waste customers 10% a month. We take in about $1.5 million worth of total revenue in our solid waste enterprise fund. So to generate $150,000 of new money, or to go from $239,000 to $389,000 in expense, we do that. So, you know, to put it in a single family home perspective, we currently are at, I believe, right at $62 bi-monthly. So it'd be a $6 increase every 2 months per house. So that's kind of how we got to where we are, you know, and I'm here to hopefully try and answer any questions you've got about what's before you tonight.
Does the commission have any questions? Yes.
Dan, also that we can or they can get out of the contract with a certain number of days if we decide to later on find a better way?
Yes, that's correct. The contract itself that we've enjoyed with Waste Connections allows both them and us as the city a 60-day clause to get out of that if there were to be circumstances for either side that dictated that necessity.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else at this time? Any questions for Dan before I go out to the public?
Yeah, just real quick, the other question I did have, thank you, Phil, that was one of my questions. Secondly, is there any, one of their competitors was here at our workshop and was speaking about the GPS tracking on there that they provide Dunedin. Given what our city manager told us about where our waste ended up in just one particular instance, that is a concern of mine. I mean, obviously we're paying $380,000 a year. Are we getting what we pay for? Or is our product just going to the dump?
We didn't pursue, I don't believe there was any pursuit with Dean about, I believe that the GPS tracking from the competitor that was here, if you really dug deeper into that, it's the truck itself that's GPS tracked, right. Not the specific contents that go into the truck. You know, I'll just remind that, you know, we heard during the workshop, you know, and we've gotten multiple different things if you go out and research on your own about what percent is really recycled. You know, we've heard, you know, 20%'s not, we've heard 40%'s not. You know, I will just throw out there that, you know, the contract really puts the control of the product or the recyclables into the hand of the contractor at the spot of curbside pickup. So that hasn't changed. So we would not really have any different control over what really happens to the contents. But so that's all I could really offer, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments you want to make at this time? No. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing at this time, and if anyone would like to come forward and state your name and kind of talk to us about how you feel about the two options that we have.
Good evening. My name is Paul Sacco. I'm the Director of Solid Waste for Pinellas County Government. So our team's here to answer any kind of questions that you may have during your deliberations tonight.
Okay. Why don't you stay in the front here while we're talking? Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time? Rod?
Sorry to be talking so much, but we have all these great topics tonight.
Yay, come us.
So-
We never have this many people in the audience, it's great. Very seldom.
A couple of years ago, I was taking a load to the dump, and I noticed that I had recycled trucks and garbage cans in the same line with me, backing up to the incinerator. And so I asked folks I know about it, and they said, well, you know what, we met with Pinellas County commissioners, and they disclose how much of it's actually getting recycled. And I was on the Environmental Stewardship Board when we first initiated this recycling program curbside. And so the question was posed, why are we doing it? Commissioner's response was, real candidly, because it gives people something good to feel about. Well, you know, $400,000 in the city budget, that's a big purchase when you consider the delta of the doubling of what it's going to be versus just not doing it at all. I'd be interested in understanding what impact it would make to our general garbage pickup costs if we just went back to garbage pickup. And just make it public knowledge the reason we made this decision is because it wasn't actually getting recycled. Maybe they could share with us tonight just how much it is getting recycled, and is it worth the money we're spending?
Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up and speak? Yes.
Yeah, my name's Ian Boyle. I'm from Waste Connections, they're your current provider. And just one correction, we've actually been the recycling partner for Indian Rocks Beach since 2011. The contract, in about 2018, Dean came to us and kind of wanted to look at doing a cart system because of the fact that Indian Rocks Beach is a heavy recycling facility. I will tell you that your material is being recycled. Anybody here, you'd like to come to our facility, which is in St. Petersburg. We recycle about 8,000 tons a month at that facility, which includes Hillsborough County, Pasco County, City of St. Petersburg, and all our contracts in Pinellas County. I know Commissioner Bond did come out and take a tour, but more than happy to give everybody a tour. As far as contamination, you're looking at about 20%. About 20% is contaminated. That stuff is that can't be recycled back in, the third-party buyers are not buying it. So that then goes to the burn plant. Total misconception that all of it is going to the burn plant, it's just not true. I can tell you right now, it's not. And my district manager who's doing 8,000 tons a month and recycling it and trying to get it sold on the back end, can tell you that as well. Now as far as the trucks, the gentleman just said, that's another misconception as well. What happens is, back when recycling first kind of started, we would have dual stream, split body trucks where you had to separate, back in the day, separate glass from plastics or whatever the case may be. So when the truck would come up, boom, glass goes on one side, plastic goes on the other side, and cans, whatever. Those are dedicated recycling trucks. To get recycling, to improve recycling, get to more people recycling, they went to a single stream system. Single stream, basically, everything goes into one cart. And then the processor then separates those materials. We have a 7-figure machine called the Green Machine, where stuff is sorted out. What happens is, from a cost standpoint, we didn't need those recycling trucks anymore. You don't need a split body dual truck anymore. What you would do is use basically the same truck they would use to pick up trash, a rear load truck, because everything's going into one spot. So my district manager, Bill Krimmel, we're buying the same trucks. They look like solid waste trucks, but they're not. They're recycling trucks. They can be repurposed. So that's kind of what we're doing. And I'm here to answer any questions if you like.
I'm going to have you look finish with everyone else who's in there. You could sit in the front too there if you'd like.
Sure. Now I will say, been dealing with this. I'm the government affairs manager. I cover about 8 counties in the area. I've been dealing with this for the last couple of years. Bill Krimmel is our district manager. It's not our intent, it's not our desire to go to our municipal contracts and give them the prices that we are. That's just kind of the stress that we're under right now. Diesel price, labor costs, everything's gone up. And that's just kind of where we're at. Madeira Beach was one of our contracts. We went into the same situation then. They decided to go out to bid, and then obviously Mr. Carpenter explained what had happened. you know, it's just kind of what's going on right now. I've been doing bids for the last couple of years, and I haven't seen anything decrease in the last couple of years. It's just a reality. I wish it wasn't the case, but that's just what we're working on.
Anyone have any questions at this time?
How many players are there in the recycling business that you're in this area?
Well, in Pinellas County, we're the only MRF, materials recycling facility.
Okay.
We have the only one in St. Petersburg. Waste Management has one in Tampa. Republic has one over in Polk County. A company called SSR has one in Sarasota. But here locally in Pinellas County, we're the only ones. Now there's another company, Florida Recycling Services. They're looking to expand their facility, but right now, as far as processing single stream recycling, we're the only ones in this area.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else right now until we go out to the public?
Not yet.
Okay, I have to sit right over there. Anyone else who'd like to speak at this time on this agenda item, please come forward. Judy?
Judy Sexton, 405 Harbor Drive South. I actually contacted the Waste Connections today because I was so concerned about, man, we're going backwards if we're going to start to decide not to recycle. Really, I don't know what's happening to our city. I was assured that they are recycling, and I really do feel that before we start to make this kind of decision, let's do a field trip and let's go see if they're recycling. Because I was assured, I spoke to a beautiful woman today by the name of Jessica at the MRF, and she, I did actually ask for someone to come as a representative today to speak, and I don't know if maybe that was why they were here, or maybe they were invited by someone else. I actually pulled my bill from 2020, and my my garbage, it was called refuse then, was $55.62, and today my garbage, as it's called, is $58.96, and you're saying $3 more a month, so $6 more per billing, which is bi-monthly. So, or every 2 months. So I just think that that's okay. Considering what flood insurance is, considering all of the other things that have gone up, gas is through the roof. Of course, Maserati has had an increase of 20% in their sales this year, but nonetheless, I really do think we need to be a lot more mindful about what we're doing here in our community. I believe that our short-term rentals have just no skin in the game, so they don't care where they put their trash. And like he said, if 20% is not getting recycled, there's a reason for that. You can't put plastic. You have to be mindful about what we're doing. You have to be mindful of what you're putting in your recycle. I'll take my recycle down to Brown Park and put it in there before I won't recycle at all. So I think we need to really think about our decisions where this is concerned. This is way too important. If we're concerned about our beaches being clean, and we can't do any kind of fireworks on the 4th of July because we're concerned about things getting trashed. We have short-term people here that are putting cigarette butts all over the place. They're not putting recycle where they need to be. It's just a whole bit, we have so much more bigger fish to fry than this. $6 every bill. The average Pinellas County garbage is between $25 and $100 per billing cycle. And we're at $50. Maybe 60 now. Let's get real.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else who'd like to come up at this time, please come forward. John, you coming up?
Yes, ma'am.
John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard. And I've sent a lengthy set of my comments to all the commissioners, so they're well aware of that. The misconceptions about the recycling, they keep getting shot down by the people that are doing it. We have the county here, we have the processor here, and yet we still hear it. Granted, there is, 20% or so dirty recycle, but the only way that's going to get fixed is to keep recycling and keep educating people about how to keep the recycle clean. All right, and the way to do that is to have a nice clean bin, okay, to put it in, and curbside recycling. The dollars, the previous speaker covered pretty well, because in the workshop we were working off $6 a month, and it was coming from the bid, all right, of $6.25 what it used to be, and it went up to $6.29, and it went up to $12.30, $6 and a penny. All right, so we're saying $6 a month, $6 a month. Well, if we look at this, it's not $6 a month, it's $6 every 2 months. All right, so that's been clarified, that's great. The numbers, I tried to talk to Dean the end of last week, and then his office called me back, but they could only speak to the numbers that are on this page. All right, that's the $11.53 versus the $6.29 they were talking about before. What concerns me is the bi-monthly, after the negotiation, went from $62.50 to $68.75. Now granted, that's $3.25, that's $3.13 a month, all right? With the average price of a home in Indian Rocks Beach probably being $1.5 million right now, this is a total non-issue. If you really want to be scared, look at your water bill and see that you're paying $55 for reclaimed water every 2 months. I can remember when that was $14. And everybody doesn't even use it. Okay? So this is a no-brainer. It's the right thing to do. At any reason, at the workshop, they were saying that $62.50 was supposed to go to $67.80. That was and that's in the minutes. Okay, I went back through the minutes. And that was based on the $12.30 figure. I'm just wondering why after we redid it all, it's costing us another $1. It should have dropped $1. Okay, but either way, it's a no-brainer. We've got the people here that can tell you the way it actually happens. And after a while, you have to believe the facts. People want to recycle. You yourself, Mayor, last month at the workshop stated that in a survey many, many years ago, 65% of the people want recycling. Now, 86% of the people in the county do single-stream recycling, and cost is not the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Who'd like to come forward? Anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue?
Mayor, can I just real quick address a couple issues?
I'm gonna let you, I want you to assume, we'll just finish up here, and then yes, I do want you to talk about the fee and what the difference, and was that wrong, or anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue? Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing at the moment. Yes, go ahead and talk about the...
Just real quick, when we workshopped it last time, we didn't have a fixed negotiated price with Waste Connections.
I didn't think we did, okay.
So any numbers that were thrown out a month ago were based on, numbers that were projected or estimated what cost would be. So, what we're talking, I understand there's confusion, there's numbers in the minutes, so I just want to put that out there. The numbers that you're looking at tonight, the 1153 for single family,
Sidebar conversations.
and the 2863, those are now negotiated numbers that you're being asked to look at enter into a contract with them. So, for what it's worth, we did focus on what's the new numbers that are here tonight are good numbers that have been negotiated in good faith between Dean and Waste Connections. The second thing I want to add is you got to be a little careful about just focusing on the previous price of 6 and change for single family going up to 1153 for single family. We have an awful lot of folks in town that recycle that don't live in curbside single family homes. They don't have their own blue can that they drag down to the curb. But the cost of recycling, the current $239,000 and now this new $389,000 is prorated out to all solid waste customers across the entire spectrum, whether they live in the condominium or in a single-family home, or even if they're commercial entities like restaurants and office buildings. So it's not as easy as just saying if it went up $5.75, that's exactly what my bill is going to go up. We've taken the total cost and allocated it across the entire operation and all bills that generate the money within the solid waste operation. So I just wanted to throw those two points of clarification out as we talk about it.
I want to make just a couple of comments from some of the things that were said. We try to be as transparent as possible up here, and when an issue comes before us, like this issue just came before us, we just found this out because our contract is coming up, and this is how we found out that there was going to be a change in price. So that's why we're here today. I mean, this is how government works. I'm so thrilled that you're all here because, like John said, several years ago, and I believe it was RB and Phil and I, we were all in the commission together, and we went out. We sent a postcard to all of the citizens in this community, and it was in the top 3 things that people wanted to see done in this community. So, that being said, I know that we sent out a card this time for people to come if they were interested in this topic. And we have learned some things today that are different than what we were told at the last meeting. I'm very happy that you came here today to kind of talk about, because what is being recycled. We had that conversation in the audience today before the meeting that, is everything being burned? Why are we doing this? How do you feel about if things are being burned, but we're putting electricity at 70,000 homes in Pinellas County? We are using the burned things are being used too. Do you feel? I mean, that's a personal feeling, a personal. Your ideas, if you think that the burning does help because it is putting electricity in people's home. These are things that we want to get out, we want to talk about with everybody and with the commission. So I just wanted to, say that as we move along here. And Joe, I think you want to say some things.
Well, I just wanted to, just a couple items because it's been a learning experience for me. Not a recycle expert, we'll see. I can answer, Rod, your question. I did talk to Dean about that. Basically, currently, Dean told me our average cost per ton right now is $200 per ton for garbage, and about $500 per ton for recycle. So we did discuss that. I got that straight from Dean. So we can answer that. And maybe these gentlemen probably, I expect because it's their industry, probably know, but I was sent 2 studies where one was completed. And like I say, this is just informational. I'm not back and forth with people. If you want to recycle, recycle. But I'm always about, the more education you can have, the better. I was really surprised. I was sent 2 studies by Greenpeace, which we can probably say they're fairly environmentally friendly in their outlook. And you guys can Google it, Greenpeace USA Recycling. They've done 2 studies related to plastic recycling. Their current estimate is only 5% of plastics are getting recycled. 1s and 2s are really the only thing that is getting recycled. 3 through 7 is not. And that's going somewhere, right? In a bale, in a landfill, getting burnt, per the article. Read it yourself, not me. But I was really surprised at that, and actually recycling has dropped. It was about 8% in 2020 and 5% in 2022. And they went out and they studied all 357 sorting centers, recycling centers. And they have the data. And they've done this report back to back. It's unfortunate. The kind of the bend of the article, in my opinion, was, don't buy single-use plastic. right? If you want to recycle, you want to be good for the environment, don't buy single-use plastic. That's where it's at. And, you know, these gentlemen are doing the best they can with the regulations they're dealing with and what they got to deal with. But it's a very informative article about the plastics. And I mean, we throw plastics in our blue container. But it gets very detailed on when and why these gentlemen either can or the contamination. It goes on that. So I'm just advising them to get educated. Like John said, the cleaner you can put it in the bin, the better chance they are going to actually have of recycling it. But to think that we're actually getting 100% of that plastic to go through is not proper, at least according to this. And it seems to be a pretty good study. It's about 40 pages long on each study, so you may want to sit down and have a coffee. But just something, like I say, get yourself educated. As these gentlemen can tell you, we signed up in 2011. The whole market changed in 2018 for the whole recycling world. When China backed out, and a couple of the other countries, it changed everything that was going on in that industry, which I'm sure these folks can attest to. Like I say, $3 a month ain't bad, but I'm sure the cleaner we can make our recycling going forward, the better it'll be for these gentlemen, and better that everybody can feel about what they're doing is right.
Denise, anything you want to add?
I guess I have questions about the incineration of the contaminated recyclables. Like how is that power used?
So all the materials that come to solid waste, if our facility is up and running, which it typically is, we have a high availability rate, then that garbage, anything that can actually be put into the feed chutes that go into the boilers would be incinerated, and that volume is reduced by 10%. So instead of putting 100% into the landfill, you'd be putting about 10% by volume into your landfill. The materials that are being incinerated, the energy that's driven from that powers between 40 and 45,000 homes in Pinellas County. The ash that comes out of that facility is actually used at the landfill, and we need that ash. It's actually a recycled material. We use that for cover that's needed for our permitting process of operating the landfill. And we need to cover daily what's being put into the landfill so that we don't have odors or vectors and things like that that are happening. So it's actually considered a recycled material. So that's how we incinerate.
Okay. So of those 45,000 homes that are being powered, do they get that for free?
No. It's just the power equivalent.
Okay.
So the power that's being derived, the county has a power purchase agreement with Duke Energy.
Okay.
And we put that power onto the grid, and then we're paid money for that power, which offsets, it's revenue that's brought into the enterprise. Okay. We're an enterprise fund, and that's what keeps our tipping fees as low as possible. Right. So our tipping fees right now are around $47 a ton, which is for the disposal portion of what the city would be paying for collection, transportation, and then you have the disposal piece.
Okay.
Outside of that, you have the recycling. And I'd like to make the point, as far as recycling, you need to look at your community. We need to look at Pinellas as a community. You can look at what others are doing around the country. It's different everywhere. Our trash, you may say, is the same as everybody else, but how we collect it, transport it, not everybody has an incinerator. In some areas in the U.S., it's cheaper to have a landfill, but they have a lot of land. We don't have that luxury. We have one landfill. We're never going to get another landfill. That's never going to happen. And the board has passed our master plan that is talking about zero waste to the landfill by 2050. And for us to do that, you have to look at the industry ladder as far as your materials. You want to reduce, reuse, recycle, and then it comes to us. And then, incineration is not recycling. Incineration is energy recovery. It is not recycling. We're not taking that material and doing something else with it. We're burning it and making energy. It's a great thing, but it's not recycling. So to the Commissioner's point, it's best if you reduce what we're using and if not, reuse it, and then we're talking about recycling. So recycling's pretty far down on the, on the ladder, and it's where we need to be as a community. I would tell you, as Pinellas County as a whole, we recycle of everything is generated. Everything is about 50% traditionally is recycled. Now, is all that curbside recycling? Absolutely not. That can be construction and debris, it could be yard waste. There's a host of things that is actually recycled in Pinellas County. But I would tell you, if we didn't recycle as a county, and that 50% came to Pinellas County solid waste, our facility, the waste energy facility, incinerates about 1 million tons a year. If you were to take that, it would essentially double what would be coming to that facility. That 1 million tons would be going to the landfill. Right now, we have about 80 years left on our landfill at the current rate that we're going. Now, we're looking to make that zero by 2050, but if we weren't to do anything at all, and we were to stop recycling, including curbside, you would take 25 or 30 years off of that landfill life. And when that landfill life is gone, we got to truck that material somewhere else. If they take it, one, and if they do, instead of $40 or $50 a ton for disposal, you'd probably be looking at $150, $200 a ton. And it'd be more than that when you're talking 25 or 30 years from now. So anything that we can do to reduce or reuse is huge. Anything you can do to recycle, it has to happen. I mean, it's great for the environment, but these are long-term decisions that you're making, even when you're talking about recycling, for the pressure that's going to put on you for long-term disposal, even if we have the incineration. The county believes in the incineration. They put $240 million into that plant from 2016 through 2020 to extend that plant another 25 years. And we're still keeping our tipping fees the lowest in the region, or those that operate with a waste energy facility in the state of Florida. So we're doing everything we can to keep those disposal fees as low as possible. Not getting recycling at our facility is just so important to keeping that fee as low as possible, as well as protecting the landfill as a resource. And it's not my resource. I mean, it's Pinellas County as a community. It's their resource. So that's kind of the pitch. So if there's questions about any of that, that's our stake as being a stakeholder in your community. I have a whole team, recycling outreach team, that works with Dean. Dean's part of the technical management committee that we talk about these items. But if there's anything that we can do to help you with standardization of your contracts, of your materials, the folks in the audience talked about, reducing the contamination, that's paramount. I mean, the better that you can get that number as low as it can, Waste Connections and whatnot, that helps them to be able to better market those materials and actually puts them ahead of others that they're competing against to put those materials out into the market. The cheaper that they can do that is going to reflect in the cost that it is for them to process, which again would reduce your cost to your customers. So it's very much integrated, and you can't segregate any one thing. We're all tied together, when you're talking about solid waste and that ladder that I described earlier.
Bill, do you have anything you want to add?
No, thanks for clearing that up. And especially when you look at the tipping fee, it's sort of like pay me now or pay me later, if you think about it. And I think that the rate that we're going to charge to the state is, no one wants higher gas prices or anything else. This is what it is. You pay it. If ever recycling purchasing comes back and we have markets like China, if they evolve again, then another day. But for right now, I personally don't think this is a no-brainer. Somebody said.
Any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
We have to. Any other questions about anything? I know what I want to ask. A lot of the residents have talked, even in the past, that they would like to come out and see the facility. It's awesome. If you like garbage, it's awesome. They have a whole area where you can bring your paint, and you can take paint. If you want to. It's just fabulous. So, how do they get in touch? What do we do to get a group down there? Do you put that together for us? What do we do? How do we do this?
You talking about our facility?
I don't, whichever one that.
So you're the commercial. So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Stephanie Watson to come up. She's our recycling outreach program manager, and she can give you a better commercial about how to get the tours and all that than I could.
Okay, good evening, Stephanie Watson. Thank you. We are happy to set up a tour for all of you to come out to the, we call it the Solid Waste Disposal Complex, and we'll show you our tipping floor of our waste energy facility. And our primary goal of the waste energy facility is not to generate electricity. It's a secondary benefit. The primary benefit is to reduce the amount of garbage. So for every 10 trucks that we get in our door, there's 1 truck left of ash that goes to our landfill. It's not 10 trucks going to landfill. So the goal of the waste energy facility is volume reduction. Energy creation is great, but it's really so we don't have a magnanimous landfill in Pinellas County. And but anyway, we can set up a special tour for you all. You may not want to come at once. You may want to come in pieces and parts.
Do you have cards that we can give
Yeah.
them?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we, if you put them on the back or something for everybody so that they can take one and then they can, the residents can make a decision when would be good for them and they'll call you. Because
Yes.
I think that would be a good idea.
We're happy to. We have citizen tours all the time, so we're happy to have you all come out.
Where did you go?
Was that?
Where did you go?
Where did I go?
Where does it go to?
Oh
For
yes,
recycle.
so we have a recycle guide. You all probably familiar with it, and anything that is on the cover of that, you all can recycle. And the Where Does It Go search tool is a tool on our website that has hundreds of items. So medications, antifreeze, mattresses, anything that you want to get rid of in Pinellas County, you can go to the tool, and it'll tell you where your depots are. And if you don't see it on there, just suggest it to us, and we're happy to add it.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm more than happy to leave my cards in the back. Like I said, we just gave a tour to Commissioner Bond. So if anyone wants it, you could actually contact me or go through Dean as well. We're more than happy to. Ours is not as impressive as the county's, but it's processing 8,000 tons of recyclables a month. It's got a cool area where we have some robots that are sorting out. We have laser technology where one day we can actually only take the clear milk jugs out, and we switch to laser, and then it's all the colored laundry detergent stuff. We have magnets that do all the metals, so it's pretty cool. But again, not as cool as their facility. But anyway, more than happy to set that up and bring you guys out.
Thank you. You know, and last year we had Greentown Kids. We had about 70 people here, and they had someone from the recycle to come to actually show us. And they had a paper how we should be recycling. Of course, most of us were doing everything wrong, so they taught us how to do everything right. And it's always a good idea to be refreshed on it, and maybe they made some changes, like Joe was talking about the number 1, the number 2, 3, and all those bottles. Now go home and look at your bottles and you figure out which ones are 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's another piece on that. Do we need to make some kind of a motion here? Do you just need, what would you like us to do with this, since it's a discussion and authorized?
The request from, as stated on the agenda, is to discuss and authorize the city manager to execute a first amended exclusive residential recycling service contract with Waste Connections of Florida, Inc. So at least what was proposed to you was, does the manager have consensus direction to execute an amendment with your current provider, as presented by the finance director? We don't need
All in favor, or?
I think,
or
given that it's a contract, it can't hurt to have people on a roll call vote. I would say that's probably the best way to do it. You're approving a contract, you might as well have a motion in a second and a roll call vote.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve city manager to make a contract.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Deanne, will you take the roll?
Commissioner McCall?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hausberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanna?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes. Thank you. we'll see that in a month or two, or we'll have to see, because we have to have this done before December, correct? Or how does that work?
You just approved the contract.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't, what you'll see is, we'll have to bring back an amendment to the budget and an ordinance to reflect the change in the rates. So you'll probably see that whenever the manager has to put that on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. We do not have any work session items. Is there any other business to come before this board tonight? Before I adjourn, many of you will see next week on Tuesday at 6, not 7, 6, for the vacation rentals. And if you don't come back, wishing you all a really happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll see you at some of our activities for the holidays. Thanks for coming tonight. And Abe will come up here, we'll get a picture with the What, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Joe, come over here so you can